It's day 2 of the World Rapid Chess Championship. Day 2 of glazing Magnus Carlsen, day 2 of outrageous titles, and day 2 of following the epic stinky cheese of the world's greatest player of all time. I'm going to bring you all 4 of his games. Let's be honest, it's who we want to see. He may be playing Hans Niemann tomorrow, absolutely mouth-watering. First, let's dive in on this. He's playing the Frenchman, may we? It's MVL. That's Maxime Vachier-Lagrave for the uninitiated. Magnus has black here, and it's a Rossolimo on the board. He tucks that bishop into bed with the banana hammock. What's this? No clue, because I don't play the opening myself. I guess you stop bishop g4 later, maybe a knight maneuver, no clue. You could have already played pawn e5 or castles, but these are the world's best players. Magnus asks a question. We're going to keep rattling here at quite a pace, lots of chess to cover, and the knight goes to the edge of the board. I mean, here's what Magnus Carlsen thinks about a knight on the edge.
Der Springer an dem Rimmer ist ein absolut Wiener Schnitzel.
And surely you can go for a bit of d3 action, dominate the jumps. Well, then it nudges back here. You never actually develops the bishop yet. So we see castles, now knight f4 from Magnus, and it all gets crazy complicated. Obviously they know what they're doing. They're the best players. Does the knight move? No, it doesn't. Counter-attack? Hang on. Can't you kamikaze? Yes, you can. It's just a different game. This is how things went here. Lots of pieces still on the board, and white stands a bit better. Lead in development, a little bit of extra space. I mean, they've both got their pawns here, but Magnus is the one now fighting to equalise. His king's still in the centre, for example. Rook e1 develops the pawn, or develops the rook, protects the pawn. Castles, bishop c4 preferred by the almighty engine. Can't get the words out, but queen a3 is played. Now it double hits a pawn, and you can't go d6 or you run into some trouble with the structure. So rook e8 here from Magnus. Now we see pawn d3 and b6. a6 may be looking nice on the last move, but you're never actually threatening to take. There's a pin. This was part of the point of queen a3. So knight f4 is now played, and MVL does 2 things here. Number 1, creates a threat of takes. You can't take with the d pawn, lose a rook, an exchange, let's say. F pawn's ugly with the structure. And secondly, black doesn't want to take here. Bring the white bishop to life. This is why Magnus drops back. Looks weird, but once you understand it, it does make sense. Bishop b7. This one develops. Always get your bits out at the board. Great etiquette. Connect those rooks. And e6. You could have started with this move, then played it. Try and make the queen look silly, but Franken queen comes back to life here. No time for bishop f8 now, or the d pawn drops. How does Magnus fight back? It's with this great move. Now bishop d5, technically better apparently, but this is actually one of the ways to try and squash this white initiative. You do mangle the pawn structure here. These are looking like the Irish pawns, as they call them. 3 in a row. This one soon comes out. It's all getting crazy. The queen backs up here. You know, bishop f8 was on the way. By the way, you can't take the pawn, or the queen gets trapped. Not with bishop f8, because then the check comes, but with rook e6. And sorry, queen's not getting trapped, but the piece is dropping off the board. She can no longer stay with the defense. This square wasn't possible. So, no knight takes. There she goes. Now we see rook c8. c2 pawn defended. Bit of pressure on the center. Magnus takes this one here. What is he? A pawn ahead maybe now? Gets difficult to count, but it's a bit of a structure that only a mother could love. MVL goes for the double stack. d6 from Magnus. Rook e1 doubles up, puts the pressure here. And Magnus should go queen d7. He's usually pretty good at the prophylactic chess, connects the rooks, defends the bishop, but he plays a little low on time. Pawn a5, big blunder. Can you see the tactical move that punishes this? Well done if you saw bishop takes on a5. And probably Magnus overlooked this because the bishop was defending the knight. You know, haven't you just hung a piece? Well, no, there's this problem here. And this is why the tactics work. And if you take, not played, you lose an undefended bishop. And still you have problems here, so you can't take the knight. So Magnus, tail between his legs, meekly goes queen d7 to cover the bishop. Entire pawn is lost. We don't see this one captured though. You know, there could be ideas of this. Sorry, not yet, but in the right line. And also, the knight is simply hanging. So the bishop backs up and covers. Magnus should go king g7 or b5, but he lifts the rook into the game. Do you even rook lift, bro? Terrible move though. There's no longer the connection. Look at this pawn push through the center. d4 the threat, so rook b5 tickles the queen. She retreats. Now rook e7, and as you can see, Magnus is not playing in the most precise way. Here, there is a brilliancy that gives white a decisive advantage, but so tough to find. Take your best guess. It's knight h5. What the? And the whole point is that after takes, you know, let's always ask the obvious question first. It had no right to be on that square. You now take on e7, queen's eyes opened. And because the e-file's cut, g-file open, bishop coming, it's just impossible to resist this attack. One quick line to give you a sample of how to end it. More unusual tactical finish there. So basically, this is a killer. Missed, understandably. MVL takes straight away. Bishop takes back. Knight d3 rotating. Rook a5 tickles the pawn. Knight covers and attacks. Now rook a8 back. We see the queen develop into the game and Magnus backs up. He's desperately consolidating now. Gives a pawn, opens the bishop, but it has to chop straight away. Amazing attacking piece, but the knight was too strong there. Now we see the queen hit the a-file, going for the pawn exchange, and the game, I'm afraid to say, starts to fizzle here. We reach ourselves a king and pawn and rooks endgame where MVL is a pawn ahead, but it is not easy to convert this one. This rook comes in front of the pawn, but really it should be behind. Magnus with the active rook there. Couple more moves played, pawn covered. Of course, MVL did not take this pawn. You don't want to do this in the end game like he did before.
In this end game where I gave a piece.
Beautiful pronunciation. We do love to hear it every time. Now we see takes. Just kidding, of course. Love MVL. Great smile on his face always. This was the actual end of the game. Draw agreed. Even though you're a pawn down with the black pieces. Magnus escapes by the skin of his teeth. Had a bit of advantage. Then lost it. Just survived. Here he is against Artamev playing with black. Now Artemyev's dangerous and he's having a stormer of a tournament. Of course he is. This is the business end. Magnus goes for the party hat here. About to say Martin. Been playing the terrible bots too long. Now we see this structure from Magnus to allow the bishop to get out. Takes. He brings the bishop out to b7 now. All standard stuff. Artemyev gets the break. But then, very soon, he plays like a big wuss. Watch this. Now you can't take the pawn. You're running into all pins and stuff. So he plays after pawn h6 here. A different idea, but not an ambitious one. Bishop f4 is best. White's clearly better. Bring the rooks. This could be a target one day, maybe. You just have a bit of pressure, bit of space. But this move was played and it's meek. It's offering a draw because if takes, this is the line, smash. And after this, there's takes on c6. Let's say bishop captures or rook c8. Doesn't really matter. This is the point. You just keep checking till the cows come home and make a perpetual check draw. So This was the boring idea from Artamev. Very down on the clock, by the way. 10 minutes, time trouble addict, bit like Grizchuk and others. Ray Robson, he's on the way. Magnus blunders. He tries to keep the game going, you know, as he does. Fair play to him. But this is awful because check. Rook takes. Tactical shot here. Can you see it? Bishop d5. Wooden shield. A pope more than a bishop. And you can't take or you lose your unprotected queen. That's why she sits terribly on this square. So this was played. And now we don't even see the immediate takes. This is really awesome. Artamev plays a brilliant c. Bishop takes on h6. The old smash and grab. If you capture, well, now you're winning a whole rook. You know, you can't block. There's a pin. King goes. That's an entire rook. You could take. But yeah, white's big material up. Crushing it. So Magnus plays bishop d6. Opens some lateral defense. Counterplay here. Takes on f7 check. Rook recaptures. And queen g6. Not the most ultra precise moves, but Artamev's living off the seconds back per move. The increment. Now we see check. King h1. Bishop backs up. And a brilliant move after rook ae1. c5 opening the eyes of that one. f4 on the board. And it's a great, aggressive, attacking move here. Because if the bishop moves, the rook hits the back rank. But it has to move. Now taking on b2 was playable, not selected. Magnus decides to back up this way, cover the king. Don't go here, by the way, just to give a flavour. Check, rook blocks, takes, takes, and queen takes. There's a pin on the pawn, of course, the crisscross applesauce stuff. So okay, this played, check, bishop covers the king, and now a second brilliancy. No, not now, ignore me. One more move, rook d1, the complete opposite of what I just said. Never listen to me. Double question marks of doom. Magnus kicks away the queen, and you have to be so careful. This is the brilliancy. If you move your queen, well, you're just losing the bishop, right? The only reason that bishop was surviving there so long is due to the pin of the queen on the pawn to the king, but now it no longer works. So you can't move the queen. What's the play? It's rook d to d8. And the point now is that if you take the queen, which you were threatening, this is check and mate. Very nice one. Boxed in by your own rook. So, back it up here. Magnus plays a different move. They're both getting a bit lower now. And it's a blunder. He should play bishop c6. Let's just show you the line quick. This is how things go. When the smoke clears, black is a pawn down, but you're fighting, right? There's always perpetual check ideas in a queen end game. They're crazy difficult to win. Although these two looking very dangerous. Ominous. Let's run back. Not played. Magnus smashes through here. Now his idea is he can take here with check. But after this and queen d5 check, he resigns after king h7. Because if it had tried to intercept with something, then you take. There's no longer defense because of the pin. Queen goes, then you take. And this was really the heart of the problem. You're getting mated or losing huge material. So the king went, but now Artamev can just do this. No counterplay for Magnus to speak of. The checkmate's on the way if you try and go for your own attack. Magnus loses game 2 of the day, game 7 of the tournament overall. I think there's about maybe 13 games in total. Let's go to game 8 here. It's hotting up. He's got Sardashian of Armenia, another incredibly strong player. Every round's difficult now, and he plays an Italian game. Solid, classic. Learn this opening. It's bread and butter. Use Lotus Chess to do it. Not just because it's fantastic, but also because their Christmas sale is on. I just hit my 55-day streak. Use it daily. Openings, puzzles. It's fantastic. Connects with chess.com and Lead Chess. AI beauty at its finest to teach you fighting, attacking chess. Send the rating skywards this new year coming. Do honestly give it a try. So good. Let's crack on with this game. D3 from Magnus. Normal, standard, developing moves. We've got one of those wonderful sites on the board. A horse box. A tour de force. Someone's going to end up in the hospital. Now we see the bishops develop. Asking the question. Magnus jumps in. All normal stuff. Let's not get bogged down in the boring details here. We get an exchange. Knight kicked back, but it's all absolutely fine for black. Shan't knows what he's doing. He shan't be destroyed in the opening. Knows his stuff. Who knows? Maybe tried a bit of lotus chess. Pawn to c ships. Queen d1 now played. And queen e6. And it's at this moment that Magnus just turns on the Magnus heat. He plays bishop f4, developing. He's got the bishops right, so he wants to open up this board if he possibly can. And he's using some pins now. Queen drops if he takes. So we see a move that's a mistake. Queen e7 was best. And it's bishop c7. Now it's really logical and natural. You want to bring the rook into the game, ASAP Rocky, and fight for the e-file. But Magnus can now go queen f3. Excellent, because it prepares to bring his rook. And after rook e8, he now backs up to d2. And if you play the natural continuation of knight e4, looking to exchange things, this is a killer. You're losing a piece. You can't get back to cover the rook, right? And if you play this, you've got the swish and soog. You can whisper it as you play it, pick up the queen, entire rook ahead. So because you can't go knight e4, you're in a world of pain. Bishop d8's played, but you're ping-ponging, bouncing back and forth, wrong direction. Explosive c4 from Magnus. The knight backs up. And this is just a stunning understanding of chess and positional meets tactical beauty. Pawn d5. And again, it's like, what? That pawn has no right to be on that square. You can just take it, right? You know, pick your way to take it. What's the problem? Well, bishop c3. Just checking this isn't the game. No, it's not. And now I'm actually getting myself mixed up. No, I'm not. I remember. The problem here is it's an eternal pin. Now, let me find the longer line I prepared here. Something like, let's say, after bishop c3, what happens if you play pawn b5, I think I was looking at, to try and get a4, b4 going. And then rook c1 suggested, or you can even take here. Apologies, 4 games prepared, hard to keep up with all the details. And what do? Knight takes, you lose your queen. Queen takes, well, you lose your knight. You can take it in either way. Pawn takes, well, you lose your knight. You can take it in either way. So this is the big problem. If you touch that pawn, eternal pin, and eventually you chop one of the defenders, win the piece. So we didn't see the pawn munched. We saw the queen back up, but now you're just getting absolutely hosed. We see queen b5. This is the last moment, however, where you have to be precise. And Magnus really did it with aplomb. Plays the move. Queen d1. Covers the bishop and the pawn, but more importantly, threatens bishop a4. Because the pawn is now attacked a number of times. Can drop. But again, if you go for it, this comes and you win an exchange. So queen d7, really stunning chess. No bishop a4 or b5. So queen f3. Now knight b5 goes for that bishop, but bishop a4 pinning. Now Shant, to his credit, fights like an absolute lion here. Really does hold on. Magnus now takes. Wasn't forced to play this way, but he saw a tactic. He went for it. They're low on time here. He could even play that end game, but he backs up. Not like him. Normally wants to get those queens off. However, he's seen that this end game is very problematic. He's just got the better pawn structure. Even one pawn ahead. The black king's more exposed. These aren't the most precise moves, but they're so critically low on time. Magnus covers his king, and this is a decisive mistake. What's the simplest way to win? Queen takes on e5. Very well done if it occurred to you. The rook comes behind the pawn. You're pushing, vacating the square. He lifts into the game, and you can now, in a moment, play check and force resignation. Because what to do? If you move the king, winning another pawn, Magnus is now 2 pawns up, still with the better structure, still with this idea of creating the outside pass pawn. If you block with the rook, same problems, waltz in, 2 pawns to the good. Clearly this is completely over, nothing to be said. Let's jump to the 4th and final. He's playing the American Grandmaster, Ray Robson, who's got the white pieces. Magnus keeps it solid once more, shows the respect for his opponents that they deserve. And what's this? A Catalan named after the chess-playing cat Alan. A brave and bold choice from Ray, given that Alan is a long-time second of Magnus Carlsen himself, helped him prepare for the World Chess Championship with Jan Nepomniachtchi. Beautiful pawn cube on the board, aka the pube, soon to be shaved. Mixing my words today. And this is just a slightly provocative move. Take some pressure off the centre. Now we see rook e8, rook c1. Of course, on every turn, there's so many options. Do you hop a knight? Do you take a pawn? Do you take a pawn? Let's just stick with what was played. It gets too nuts. Now we see takes here. Magnus left with the isolated queen's pawn, but these are some of the ideas for his pieces. Or did I just draw a load of paint on the board and try and act smart? Never a bad idea if you're not sure of the plans in the position. But in all seriousness, the IQP usually gives attacking ideas, open files, outposts for pieces, dynamic play, knight f3 back. Magnus jumps in here. Bishop h3 is an annoying move, like a fly that won't just buzz off. Magnus has to deal with it. Blocks with the knight. Always asking the question, do you want to change the structure? Connect my pawns? It's playable, just a different game. Not done here. Ray jumps, and just like we see so often, he's down like 7 minutes on the clock. Perennial time trouble addict. Magnus plays a brilliant move that's so tricky when you've got not a lot of time. Rook c5. He's absolutely loving his rook lifts today. Do you even rook lift, bro? I absolutely love the rook lift bro t-shirt. It's on the way. The merch is below if you like the look of it. I'll be wearing it very soon. I'm excited to do so. I've also got a chess speaks for itself one coming. Bishop f6 from Magnus. Queen d3. It looks like Ray is holding everything together, but some Magnus genius and brilliance now strikes. He plays bishop a6, activating down that diagonal, and you just can start to see some of the tactics whirling and swirling right. There's stuff going on here. This move is played, such a natural defense, plus it's Chewbacca's favourite move, the Wookiee one, but it's actually a big mistake. Can you see the tactical shot here to punish the white player? It's bishop takes on e2. Now, it's really not an easy tactic to spot unless your head's like deep in the game, following the themes of everything. And of course, let's ask the obvious question, why can't you take it? Well, then you lose a rook. So then the second question immediately springs to mind. Fine, let's invert the order. Take here, after takes, then take here. But the problem, is pawn takes. And you're picking up a tempo on the queen. She moves, and therefore there's no time to take the bishop. Why is this possible? Because the knight covers c5. As usual, Magnus is just so good at weaving together the different parts of the tapestry, the web, the puzzle, however we want to describe it. So knight d2 is played. Now knight g5 opens the defense of the bishop, hits this one. Obviously the bishop drops off. Knight e6 swinging round to hit the queen, and now clearing the way for the pawn to run. So often you want to control the square in front of the passed pawn if possible. Bishop b5 now gets out of dodge, defends the rook, x-rays the queen. She moves out the way. Not the most precise moves, but very low time now. d4 thrusts through the heart of the position. Ray kicks back the bishop, and Magnus bounces round like this. Knight f3, re-entering the game. Pressure on the centre, but Magnus centralises the pieces, and it's just so miserable now for Ray to play. Pawn down, Magnus with the active pieces. These ones are traded off the board. Knight swinging round here, and Magnus can just take his time. Ray's thrashing, desperate for counterplay, but here comes the cannon. And before you can say
$1 million,
this pawn pushes and gains the space. Magnus invades. Queen d2 on the board here. If you went for this tactical stuff, by the way, it's just not working. Forget the details. Maybe you can take here first. Not sure. But it's not working. So this was played. Now we see queen b3. a5 on the board. Rook c2. Kicking Ray from pillar to post. Now the queen invades some more here. And the exchange of rooks does not help, because Magnus just doing his thing, mopping up pawns, controlling the square in front of the pawn, hitting this, and Ray just can't hold it together. He desperately swings around. If queen d2, you're not overextended, you can cover. This one's now about to drop. So we saw this, 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 and this to end the game. Ray resigns here, nothing to be done. If he takes, the pawn's running through. You can try and stop it, but in vain. Eventually the second one joins the party. And if you don't take, what else to do? You can't get around to defend your knight. If you move your knight, lose your queen. Hopelessly over. Let's take a look at the results here. You can see here, I was having a look at Niemann's games. He's also had a stormer of a day. Would love to have covered some of his, but you can only do so much, right? He's now leading the tournament, in fact, with Artamev, with Magnus chasing, and Alexei, Yaz Khan, the exciting youngster from Turkey, Nodebek back in the hunt after a slow start yesterday. It really is getting exciting here. Do smash subscribe if you're loving these recaps, and I do hope to see you again for tomorrow's. Have a look at the video on screen if you want some more epic chess, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.